Okay, let's jump right in. Picture this. You're in Italy for, say, 10 weeks. Great food, amazing sights. But almost every time you mention you're from the U.S., people get this look. And they start talking about being, well, afraid. Not of me, but afraid to actually visit the United States.
Really? That's specific.
Yeah, constantly. Italians, Germans, Danes, French people I met. It wasn't just one or two, it was this recurring theme. A real fear of getting
Detained or even deported right when they land.
Wow.
Honestly, I was pretty skeptical at first. I
Yeah.
thought maybe they're misunderstanding something, so I posted about it online. It just blew up, went viral.
Not at all. My first reaction had always been, oh, that's crazy, you'd be fine visiting. They're worried about undocumented workers, people trying to stay illegally. But the sheer number of people echoing this fear, it really made me stop and think.
Right.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, to really unpack what's behind this surprising fear among legitimate travelers, what it actually means for the U.S., and why these aren't just isolated stories.
It makes sense you're skeptical.
Yeah, like I said, when I first heard these worries directly from Europeans, I kind of brushed them off internally, thinking, look, U.S. border policy is focused on illegal crossings, maybe people intending to overstay.
But in Europe, the stories getting traction are different. They hear about incidents involving European travelers, people who look like them, sound like them, facing serious issues at U.S. entry points.
Oh, okay, so it feels much more personal.
Precisely. For them, it's not some distant policy issue. It's hearing, story after story after story about people like them having their trips ruined, getting detained. It makes the risk feel incredibly real and relevant in a way maybe it doesn't to us here.
It really drives it home.
It got so intense. I even heard this specific rumor going around, especially in soccer circles.
Oh.
Yeah, that FIFA or people involved with the World Cup were actually thinking about maybe
That's quite something. And to really get why people feel this way, we need to look at some specific cases from the sources. What's really striking is how many involve people with valid ESTA documents.
Right, the pre-approval system.
Exactly. ESTA means the U.S. government has already done a check, theoretically clearing them for entry. It should be straightforward.
But it wasn't for these people.
Not at all. Take Jessica Briosk, a German woman. She was held for 46 days.
46 days.
46 days, including 9 in solitary confinement. This was at the San Isidro border crossing. The reason: officials suspected she might try to work illegally.
why.
Apparently a language barrier issue. He was asked a question and mistakenly said he lives in Las Vegas instead of staying. So they detained him for, quote, unlawfully living in the U.S.
Just based on that one word.
And seems like it, or considered Fabian Schmidt. He's German, but actually a U.S. permanent resident, a green card holder.
Okay, so he should have no issues.
You'd think. Detained at Boston Logan Airport. Sources say aggressive interrogation, then held in Rhode Island, stripped, put in a cold shower.
What? Why?
The reasons were never made clear. It actually prompted an official investigation by the German government.
I bet it did.
And Celine Flood, a 22-year-old German student, coming for a vacation
February 28, British Welsh backpacker, detained 19 days at the U.S.-Canada border.
19 days. Why her?
Her officials called her an illegal alien. They said she violated her ESTA by trying to work.
What kind of work?
Household chores. She was using that platform workaway, where you do a few hours of light work for hosts in exchange for a place to stay.
Oh, right. People do that all over the world.
Exactly, but they classified it as illegal work. Result, a 10-year ban from entering the U.S.
10 years from doing chores via workaway. That seems disproportionate.
It certainly raises questions. One last one. Mads Mikkelsen, 21, Norwegian tourist, detained 5 hours at Newark Airport.
Okay, 5 hours isn't days, but still.
They definitely paint a picture.
They really do. Wow. Those individual accounts are powerful. You can absolutely see how hearing things like that would make someone hesitant. Is there any sense from the sources about what the goal is here from the official's perspective? What are they trying to achieve with this level of scrutiny?
Well, the sources suggest it's about a really broad interpretation of immigration laws, particularly regarding intent. Officials seem empowered to view almost anything tattoo gear, a poorly phrased answer, maybe an itinerary that isn't
Planned down to the hour as potential evidence of intent to work illegally or overstay.
So it's like an enforce first, ask questions later kind of approach.
It appears that way in these cases.
The sources point out something pretty shocking. The United States is apparently the only country in the world that isn't actively at war or in some major conflict that's currently seeing tourism decrease.
That's correct. Everywhere else is generally recovering post-pandemic, but U.S. tourism numbers are lagging or falling.
And the financial hit is massive.
Huge. The projection mentioned in the sources is a potential loss of $30 billion in tourism revenue just this year.
$30 billion. That's hard to even
grasp.
It is. And you have to remember that's not just money lost by big airlines or hotel chains.
Right, it trickles down.
Exactly. It hits those tourist towns, the ones that really depend on...
People slip up about living versus staying.
right. So minor things blown way out of proportion, it seems.
And it goes beyond that. The sources mention how border officials scrutinize travel plans. If your itinerary isn't super detailed or if there are perceived inconsistencies.
Like with a Norwegian student.
Exactly. That can be seen as suspicious. And what really stood out was an analogy one source used.
What was that?
They said, this level of itinerary scrutiny, demanding such detailed plans. It sounds a lot like Russia and China and Vietnam.
Wow.
Comparing U.S. entry requirements to countries known for, strict government monitoring.
It's a strong comparison, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly not the image the U.S. usually projects.
Things like a spouse not remembering an anniversary date, or maybe the couple hadn't known each other for very long before marrying. The source questioned whether it's appropriate for the government to make such judgments about the validity of personal relationships based on memory tests or timelines.
That feels like a huge overreach. Judging marriage validity at the border.
It reflects a very, very broad interpretation of determining someone's intent to immigrate versus just visit.
Okay, so putting this all together, what's the takeaway
For the average person, especially a European thinking of visiting.
Well, it means the problem isn't confined to people trying to sneak in or overstay illegally. That's probably still...
cost, the planning involved. And then they hear these stories, the small but seemingly real risk of detention, deportation, a ruined expensive trip.
It just doesn't seem worth the gamble.
Precisely. They think, why risk it when I could go somewhere else? And they are choosing other destinations. We see it in the numbers.
It's pretty sobering to think the U.S. is now seen by some, as the sources suggest, as one of those countries. You know, the kind
You might consciously avoid because of potential trouble at the border, like how some people might hesitate about Mexico or China for different reasons.
It's definitely a shift in perception.
So we've covered a lot to...
end up detained or deported based on sometimes pretty flimsy grounds.
And it really does raise that crucial question. Is the current approach, even if it's aiming for maximum security, maybe going too far, is it creating this huge negative economic impact, scaring off perfectly normal visitors unintentionally?
Yeah.
For many potential tourists, especially from Europe, that small chance of a catastrophic travel experience, detention, deportation, financial loss, trauma, it's just not a risk they're willing to take, not when there are so many other welcoming places to visit.
So the final thought for you listening is this. Is this current balance the right one?
When you weigh the goals of border control against the very real impact on tourism, on businesses, and on America's image abroad,
Yeah.
what are the